Hey, what's up? It's your boy Steve Cardenas, aka Rocky the Red Power Ranger, and you are watching Blurredography. So check it out.
You're now listening to Blurredcast, presented to you by Blurredography.
How you doing?
Very good, thank you, sir.
All right, Debbie of Big Rest of the World. My first question to you is, you started at Disney at 21.
Yes, I did.
What? How did that even happen for somebody to get from 21 years old to Disney?
Okay. Boy, I'm gonna try to make that a small story, but basically I saw the making of Little Mermaid when I was in high school. It's 1989, and I've always drawn. I've always liked drawing a lot. I love movies a lot. I love animation a lot. Basically, I was in a period of my life where I came downstairs and saw that. I didn't know such a thing really exists. I knew there's movies. I loved the Disney movies. But remember, this is a time when you could only see home video was even kind of newer at that point. So you had to wait 7 years, right, in between the movies. I loved them. I knew when I saw that, it was on My World of Disney, behind the scenes of Little Mermaid, it changed my life. I was like, if such a thing exists, I didn't even know what an anime was. I never wanted to be a part of it. Okay, so long story short, I mean, I was one of the better, put this right way, I was really pretty good in high school, right? So I had a 4-year scholarship to college, multiple colleges actually, but one of them, the Columbus College of Art and Design, so I'm from Ohio, that was one of the 6 schools that Disney had hired from in their advent of going up, since they started to revamp the animation. So I went there, and when I got there, it was 1991, was like, I mean, that was the job. I mean, Disney was like the number one thing. And then come over Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King came out. So like, it was enormous hits, right? And so basically, you know, I was one of 2 people to have a 4-year scholarship coming in. And so you're kind of always like, I was voted the top student my freshman and sophomore year in the whole college. And so, but that year, or that during that time frame, there was always people who were really, really good. So long story short, they only hired 11 people a year. That's it. If you didn't get hired, you had to wait till the next year. So my 4th year, I was, I think, 25th best. And I'm talking about maybe 50 to 60,000 people, right? So 25th best. And then, so I didn't make it, right? So then the next year, my scholarship ran out. So I was going into my 4.5 years. And all I did was I was not like concerned about anything but getting that job. I didn't care about graduating, didn't care about anything but like getting that gig. Most people that hired at Disney at that point in time were hired before they graduated because they were that good. And long story short, that's what happened to me. I mean, I was I think 6th or 7th best of all the people that submitted out of about 60,000, and I didn't graduate college. It was like going to the MBA for art, really.
Old age?
All right, my name is Mark, and I'm from Blurredography. My question for you is, how did you get started writing children's books?
Wow, okay, so I've always liked writing a lot, and while I was at Disney, you get into I got into storyboarding, filmmaking, and then storyboarding, and so I started doing that a lot. Storyboarding and picture books are very similar in a lot of ways. So basically, I storyboarded this reel for for a small animation company. And this guy that owned this, that we were doing this work for, he wanted to do books. And so he contacted me, and we did these kind of independent, it was adventure cookbooks, but they had adventure stories in them. And then we filmed our own little company, basically self-printed, self-published my first books, and went to this thing called a BEA. It's a Book Expo America. It's a huge event in New York every year. And that's where my agent, Dan Lazar at Writer's House, who's a pretty prominent agent, saw like these books. My first book was called The Monkey Goes Bananas, and he signed us up as an agent like right on the spot. Or actually, he gave us like that. It was like the next day, which I guess is pretty rare to get a literary agent like that. But then he sent it out to a couple places, and like next week there was a bidding war between like Abrams and Simon & Schuster for my first book, and I was off.
Thank you. children's books. Like, that's a very niche audience. What made you choose the children as your target audience for your work?
Well, so I worked at Disney, right? And I write kind of like that. Like, so I read mostly novels when I read, but I don't feel like I can write well at an adult level. Like, you know, it's like I'm good at story structure. And so to write with very short sentences and that kind of humor, twisted humor, is just the way I just feel best at. And so I do both picture books and chapter books. Basically, my new one was actually a graphic novel. And I feel all my books, like everything, all the movies I worked on, all the books I do, everything I want to do, my goal early on in life was to be a part of something that was going to better the world. That was my goal. So that when I'm done, I think I feel like it's easier for me to do that with children's books as well, where it's like you can say like believe in yourself, that type of thing, as opposed to an adult novel. Life is already so hard and complex. It's hard to just say believe in yourself. I feel like in a novel, so I do that mostly with kids' books.
Out of all of your projects, movies and books that you've worked on, both with Disney and with your writing, what one project have you been most proud of?
In some ways, it's Mulan. I think because Mulan, man, I can barely even speak about Mulan. How much everyone that worked on that movie knows what I'm talking about. How much we love that movie, and that was a time in the history of Disney animation, the Disney company, and in my life personally, that was like the pride you had of working at Disney Animation at that point in time, and at that studio, the Florida studio. That was our movie. That was our first big movie that we did there, unparalleled. I don't know if there was a family there, and so was Mulan. I mean, I think Lilo and Stitch to me maybe was a better movie. It's hard to say, but that was already like my sixth movie or something, right? So Mulan was my first movie, and I just think it was beautiful, and again, every person gave their everything to make that as good as possible.
Now, what's a Disney project that you weren't a part of that you wish that you were a part of?
You know, it's not really a Disney project, but it kind of is. But it's The Incredibles. I mean, I was at Pixar, but to me, The Incredibles, it may be a top 3 film of any film ever. I mean, I just think there's so many things that I love The Incredibles. And yeah, I mean, Brad Bird, I've never met, who's the director of that. He's like a kind of a living legend in that industry. But that's The Incredibles.
What's some advice you can give to someone who's interested in starting writing for the first time?
Okay. Writing, first of all, read a lot. That's the number one thing. I mean, a lot of people, it sounds obvious, but don't just read for entertainment. Break down a little bit of like, how did they start this chapter? How did they start this paragraph? What does a page look like? You know, so that's kind of like, know what your craft is. If you're trying to do picture books, read a lot of picture books and see what's the first sentence, right? How do they end it? What's the arc and stuff like that. So analyze your area, your space. Write a lot, right? I feel like sometimes they say like, well, write what you know, but I don't really know. I mean, I wrote about mermaid books and stuff like that. I don't really know a lot about it, but I got to know about it. Write what you're interested in is what I would say. Not necessarily what you know, but get to know about it. And that's the main thing, I think, because as far as like the craft of actually writing, it's hard. I mean, to practice a lot, and it could take years and years, and there's no way a talk could give you, but practice a lot. Expect it to take years. Expect it succeeding to take years. If you're going into writing or movies or art thinking if you're doing it to make money, man, you're in the wrong industry. You can do that, but that can't be the primary goal. It's got to be your craft.
What would you say is your favorite aspect of writing? Is it the characters, is it development, is it plot?
It's you know what? It's the beginning stages when I'm still formulating the story. Like, oh, that'd be I hear a good title, or oh, that'd be a good story. What if it's about this or it's about this? You know, the beginning before it's written. Actually, the minutia of writing the words. I'm good at that. And I like twisting words. Like it's hard to think off the top of my head, but using the same word a second time and then a third time that reflect the first, second, like where it changes the meaning of the first time. But I like doing things like that, and I like dialogue. But my favorite thing is really coming up with a story and beating it out, because then I write and illustrate, so it's like it becomes work after a while. But when you're first thinking of the idea and telling my agent or my editor, and it's like that's my favorite part.
Aaron? Out of all the animators that you worked at Disney, which one gives you the most motivation when working on the projects? Is it like Aaron Blaise or is it
Aaron Blaise? I know Aaron Blaise. No, it's not Aaron. I mean, I don't know him real well. I mean, I know we know each other, but it's like probably. I only worked a little bit. I don't even know if you remember my name, honestly, but Andreas Deja he was supervisor on Lilo, and he was such a nice dude, man. I mean, Andreas, where I was living at the time, I was making short films, and he was like an apartment, and I was making a short film out there, and I knew Andreas was coming to work on Lilo, and I was doing a shot. And this guy comes walking up, and he's like, "So what do you do?" I think he's German, and he says like, "So what are you working on there?" Not knowing who I am at all, And I was like, "Oh, I'm making this movie." I was like, "Oh my goodness, you're on Train Stage." And he's like, "I am. How do you know?" I was like, "I'm an animator at Disney. I want to work on Lilo actually." And then we just hit it off. And then he came to my house or my apartment there to just like watch the movie when it was done, and just the nicest guy. But he was so passionate. Everybody knows anything about animation about Andreas. He's really passionate about Disney, the history of Disney, huge Milk Hall fan, and just like passionate about being great. It's gonna sound cliche, but Glenn Keane is a man among men, and he came to I always tell this story, but he came to the studio once. I was in Florida studio, he was in California, and we did his figure drawing. I was scared. I mean, and the thing was, is like, I was used to being, people want your autograph. I mean, you're so good at drawing that like, you can draw around anybody. But when Glenn came, he's coming around the room, and it's like, I can't remember who was drawing. It was John Henry or something, but he's just like going like, and he'll rip off a piece of paper and he'll put it on top of your piece of paper. In like 30 seconds is way better than you could ever do. And so I'm like, oh, here he comes, and I'm trying to draw as good as I can, and he comes like, no. And he says the thing, and I remember, I still have that drawing. I mean, it was like, I wanted him to sign it, but I didn't, because that wasn't the time and place to get his autograph, But, yeah, Glenn.
Okay, we have 3 more minutes.
Oh, yes.
So.
Are these all the people already from outside?
No, everybody that's in here.
Really, this is the group?
Yeah,
okay, well, very good. I'm going to pull 2 names from this pile.
Don't forget to shake it.
I'm going to shake it, and these are actually, these are giveaways.
Oh, shit.
These are giveaways. Did you put one in here?
I did not.
No, I put your name in.
Oh, did you?
Okay, well, here we go. You get an autographed book.
Sweet.
Let's see what we got. This one. It says. They're really stupid. Aaron. Whoa! Aaron gets this book 1. All right, very good. Hold on, before I sign it, let me see who's going to get book 2, which was also a bestseller, but we'll see what we got. This is just random. Let's see what we got here. Kimiko! Pick another one? Oh, okay. There's like 5 Kimikos in here. All right, let's see what we got. TK? TK. All right, you guys. So, if any like a final type question or anything?
Yeah, we'll do one more question.
Yes. What would you say is your favorite story of all time and why?
Wow. That's hard to say. I mean, obviously, but I can tell you that a lot. When I say favorite, that a lot would probably have to do with when I was like my biggest things I overcame in life was. It probably was in college. Just to get to the point where you could go to Disney, and I don't know, I read a lot there. And my favorite book the only book that I've actually reread or re-listened to many times, again, let alone many times, was called The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. And it has to do with a future. Ray Bradbury wrote this before we even had been to the moon, so it's real sci-fi type of stuff. But we had gone to Mars basically over a series of number of years of missions to find out that there were Martians there. And in time, Earth people populated Mars. But basically because of chicken, we brought chicken pox to the Martians. It ended up wiping out all of the Martians, which we've done in America too. But what happened was we were so populated on Mars, then there became there was these wars on Earth. And so people started to leave Mars to go back to fight in this war on Earth way at the end. And then there was only I think 1 or 2 people left on Mars and of all, because all Martians had been wiped out. And it was just such these are all a collection of short stories that added up to this bigger story. But something about the way Ray Bradbury writes, it's very simplistic in certain ways, but I don't know, I just felt I love that story. Martian Chronicles, I love that story. Awesome, all right, man. Thank you guys, thank you so much. Those are great questions.
Thank you.
If you have anything afterwards, whatever you want to, ask me anything, that's fine too. Do we have TK? Yeah, all right. So I don't know if you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's I have an Instagram account, so you can look me up. So my first name is Peter, and then it's Peter_Raymundo, and then _author. Peter, and there's kind of a picture of me. I think I'm drawing a kind of bluish looking picture. Peter_Raymundo _author, and I didn't pick the underscore. I had to because it was there's already a Peter Raymundo apparently. So, and then there's also Peter_Raymundo. So I had to put the _author just to be somewhere different. All right. Well. All right. No sign. It's just I sign this to TK.
Yeah, that's great. Aw, this is so cool.
So it's TK.
Yes, sir.
Okay.